when I encounter something that's kind of birthed out of creativity of some sort, like a song, a movie, TV show, I often wonder, what's the story behind this creative endeavor? Was the artist thinking of something specific as they created it? What was the inspiration? Sometimes that artist is going to open up a window to what was inspiring them in their creative process. Other artists are kind of coy. And they say the meaning of the song, the picture, the movie, well, that's in the mind of the beholder. What does that song mean? Well, it means what you think it means. Sometimes the meaning changes based on the artist that's doing the performance. An example of this is the song Hurt, which was written by Trent Reznor and the band 9 Inch Nails. And this song was about the pain that the writer and artist felt when they could not feel joy and they were living in a very dark place. Now, when Johnny Cash took this song and performed it at the end of his life, it became about the loss of relationships in life. The meaning of the song changed based on the performance. Great music, great art, great poetry has a meaning that is expansive and adaptive. Such is the case with our reading from Ecclesiastes today. Now, Ecclesiastes is both a challenging and a refreshing book of the Bible. And its placement in the Old Testament, right after the book of Proverbs, adds to its appeal. It contains, Proverbs contains instructions of life. Probably it was written for young men to show them how to have the good life. The general format of Proverbs is if you do this thing, then this other thing will happen. If you want good things to happen, then do the following. If you want to avoid pain, then avoid doing these things. Proverbs provides us with these guidelines and some rules and promises. Now, Ecclesiastes follows Proverbs and says, okay, but life is complex. Life is filled with pain and joy. And the pain and the joy are not determined necessarily by what you do. Pain and joy are part of life. And even if you follow the instructions from Proverbs for a good life, down to the letter, pain and suffering may appear even prominently in life. Ecclesiastes represents a bigger reality, a harsher view of life. Now, consider this odd analogy. Consider the standard order of TV shows Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. Okay? Wheel of Fortune typically comes first, and it's filmed on a colorful set. People take their turns, they're nice and polite, and the contestants always seem optimistic. It's going to work out, even if the spin doesn't go that way. Then comes Jeopardy. Filmed on a very stark set with the contestants that don't take turns, but they have to buzz in and have to take the option and the advantage from the fellow contestant if they make their mistakes. It even seems like the polite, "Oh, I'm sorry, that's not right," from Ken Jennings feels like it comes with just a little drip of sarcasm to show what life is like. Jeopardy feels a little closer to real life than Wheel of Fortune does. And Ecclesiastes feels a little closer to real life than Proverbs does. What is our reading from Ecclesiastes today telling us? The author, who tells us in other parts of the book that his name is Koheleth, gives us some wisdom about time. Now, not giving us any scientific knowledge or precision things about time, like how to divide it up or how to be more efficient with your life. No, Koheleth has given us some hard truth about our time here on earth. He tells us there's going to be a time for everything under heaven. And in the ancient world, heaven was above and the earth was below. So him telling us there's a time for everything under heaven just means there's a time for everything on this earth. In this reading, we see several activities, several actions that seem in opposition, and they're listed in such a way that highlights their being opposite. In this section, it functions like our author, Koheleth, functions like neither a cheerleader nor a promoter of doom. Or maybe does he function both as a cheerleader and a promoter of doom? I think an argument can be made for either way to look at it, because life is filled with both cheer and doom. Now, is Koheleth urging action or just observing what's going to happen? And let's look at this a little deeper by looking at one of the verses of the poem, because it is a poem where the opposite of action seems very obvious. There's a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Pretty opposite. Maybe the original Hebrew sounded nicer, but it's kind of clunky. Do it or refrain from it. Now, does this mean that actively there should be a time where we do the embracing and a time when we refrain from doing it? Or is the author just telling us that that's how life is going to end up? There's going to be a time where you're going to be able to embrace those around you, and a time where that won't feel right. Or a time where others may not come to you when you're hoping they come to you. The poet may be saying both will be true. When will these times happen? How will we know? What should be our actions? How should we respond? These are all the questions that we have as human beings living under this banner of heaven. And Ecclesiastes gives us no answers. It just says this is the way it's going to be. We are told there's going to be times of activity and there'll be situations that are going to bring joy. But there's going to be other activity and situations that will bring sorrow. And Ecclesiastes offers no formula to move from sorrow to joy. It offers no clues as to how long sorrow will last. It only tells us there's going to be a time and a season for both joy and sorrow. There's no guarantee or even hint of how long sorrow time will be relative to joy time. The book of Ecclesiastes offers very little in terms of commandments or advice. Ecclesiastes offers a look at life. We see today in this wisdom that it says it comes in seasons. Seasons can be long, seasons can be short. One of the few things that Ecclesiastes does advise is that God is God. God is to be worshiped, and Koheleth is telling us God should be respected. The other advice Koheleth gives is to enjoy life when you can. To eat, drink, and be merry when you can. There may be wisdom in trying to change what can't be changed, but also wisdom in sitting in what you can't. When we experience the times to weep, we can be assured that God understands our weeping. The infinite God of the universe came down here in the form of Jesus, and he knows our weeping. We're going to celebrate his birth soon, so even though he knows our weeping, he also knows our dancing. And he knows even when we feel the urge to dance and we feel the urge to weep, he knows them both. He has experienced them both. The God of the universe knows us. We hear in the reading from Ecclesiastes, there's seasons of sadness and there's seasons of joy. There's hope in this reading. In just a moment, we're going to hear a version of this reading that emphasizes the hope while still keeping the sorrow. You see, in the 60s, the folk musician Pete Seeger was challenged to write a song because he had some issues with his publisher that they didn't like stuff. So he went to the Bible and just pulled something out. Pulled it out of Ecclesiastes, wrote a song. And then Roger McGuinn from the Byrds heard this song, did some rearranging with it, a little bit, and created a #1 hit in 1965. And it's still the only #1 hit with lyrics that are over 2,000 years old.